Welcome to The Edge. I'm your host, Tom Smith. Today our guest is Mike Henderson, who was in Scientology for 34 years. Most of that, which is actually most of his life, he and his wife left the church in 2005 after attaining the highest levels in Scientology. His story today is about how corporate Scientology disrupts families by their policy of enforced disconnection. And he's also going to give us some details about his time in the Sea Organization, which is a unit within Scientology that does most of the management work and most of the Scientology service delivery. Welcome to The Edge, Mike.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Well, you were in Scientology for, actually, most of your family is in Scientology. You were in for 34 years, and just less than 3 years ago, you and your wife got out after attaining the highest levels there. Can you kind of tell us about, give us a rundown about what happened there?
Well, we left after being members of the Sea Organization for a short time. The Sea Organization is basically the fraternal order in the church that manages the church. They're a dedicated group of people who basically renounce worldly goods and monetary gain to work for a long period of time for the church. They devote their lifetimes and so forth. And they actually sign a contract for 1 billion years to be members of the Church of Scientology and to carry out the mission of the church, which is basically to decontaminate this galaxy, is how they put it, of aberration. We were in the Sea Org a short period of time, myself about 4 months, my wife about 3 months. And we left after seeing some things in practice and operation that we not only disagreed with but could not be a part of. And this was after being members of the church for 34 years. My wife was in the church 10 years. So after a long period of being a parishioner of the church, practicing Scientology, going up the levels of Scientology, we went into the Sea Organization and worked there a short time.
Okay, you worked there for, now you were in the Sea Organization, you yourself were in the Sea Organization on 2 different occasions, correct?
Once in 1974 for about 7 months. I went to Europe and worked on a ship called the Apollo, where L. Ron Hubbard was working. He's the founder of the Church of Scientology. I was a telex operator for about 4 months and left, and then was a public Scientologist from 1971 to 2005, a period of 34 years. My entire family, my 4 sisters and brother, both my parents, and all our children all became members of the church. A total of about 35 people. And when I left the church, I knew that I was going to be estranged from my family. When I left, part of the conditions were that I would be expelled from the church and declared to be an antisocial person. And nothing in my life would indicate to anyone that I was an antisocial person. But the church looks at it that way, that if you leave the church without going through their protocols, which include extensive auditing to divulge any secrets or crimes or any things you might be withholding, which might be a reason that you want to leave, That can take months, during which you're subjected to ridicule and a lessened status within the group because you want to leave.
Well, now you left the Sea Org. That was
Right.
leaving the Sea Organization.
Right.
Right. But if you leave Scientology, aren't there instances where someone just says, I don't agree with this anymore, and they're still labeled a suppressive person?
Yes, in their ethics book, the founder of the church listed publicly departing Scientology as in a category all by itself, as the highest of all the high crimes. Publicly departing Scientology means making a declaration or statement publicly that you're no longer a Scientologist, and that's considered the highest of all the crimes.
Yeah, and actually, in practice, it can be a statement to another person. It isn't necessarily, you're not publishing a notification in the paper. It isn't like the common legal notion of public, where that's like putting it up on a billboard or putting a notice in the paper, or filing a notice in the paper or whatever, like a legal notice. It can be telling somebody.
Right. Now, there are literally thousands of people around the world who are no longer practicing Scientology, who, for the purpose of public relations within their own family, to keep things smoothed over, are simply playing along with the concept that they're still Scientologists, but they're not, in fact. And that's only to keep their family from disconnecting from them. And disconnecting, we should probably define that. It's the same as religious shunning in any other church. The Mormons, the Amish, there are many churches which practice shunning in one form or another. Mm-hmm. So Scientology is not the only religion where shunning or disconnection is practiced. It's just that the way Scientology applies the disconnection policy is actually in contravention to what Hubbard actually said, which was he actually canceled the policy at one point, but it was reinstated by the current head of the church.
Yeah. I'm just curious, Mike, how do you define religion? How do you define religion?
It's it's an effort to understand the workings of the universe, whether it be an understanding of nature or an understanding of any spiritual factor which happens to do with the creation or management of the universe itself and all the beings therein, whether they're whatever life forms we all kind of feel that there's some kind of a spiritual quality to life. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't say we all feel that way, because some people don't. Mm-hmm. But most people think that there is some spiritual or metaphysical factor which we're all trying to understand. And I think Scientology in that way is actually religious. However, the group at the top that we were a part of, the Sea Organization, starts to approximate the definition of a cult. And that is something which is fought hard by the church. It's something which is denied. They will go to great lengths to get people to not say that it's a cult, when in fact the organization that runs Scientology, the Sea Organization, has every definition of a cult you can think of applies to that organization. And when you've been in it, when you've been inside it and see how it runs on a day-to-day basis, you begin to understand what a cult really is. It's a micromanagement of every minute of every staff member's day, from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed.